All set, Jamie? Well, good morning, everyone, and it is a great morning, and I'm thrilled to be here today alongside Mayor Chow to announce that Toronto and Ontario have reached a historic new deal. A new deal that puts the city on the path to long-term financial sustainability through growth. Before I get into details, I want to thank the many public officials, both from the province and the city, who helped make this deal reality. Starting with my great Secretary of Cabinet, Michelle D. Emanuel, and amazing person, Paul Johnson, Toronto CAO, and Greg Runchuk, Deputy Minister of Finance, and the Finance Minister, Peter Bethenfalvey, which is doing a great job. I also want to thank, these are two important people, both myself and the Mayor, my Chief of Staff, Patrick Sackville, and the Mayor's Chief of Staff, Michael Hay. You know, people don't realize how hard they work. They've worked all weekend, all night. We were up late last night, and I just want to thank them for their long hours of work to make this deal possible. I want to thank Chief Laforme for his ongoing partnership. And a couple special thank yous to both Councillors Shelley Carroll, Budget Chief, and Paul Ainsley, my former seatmate for 4 years. And I can assure you, when you sit beside someone for 4 years, you get to know each other, you get to know each other's family. And I just want to thank them for their support, for the Mayor and I, and their guidance to the both of us. And of course, I want to thank the Mayor for her commitment and dedication to getting this deal done. It's amazing to see what we can accomplish when we work together, when we put our differences aside and focus on what unites us. So, Mayor, thank you so much. Friends, after weeks of productive discussions, we've agreed to a game-changing historic new deal. The deal will provide the city with up to $1.2 billion in new operating supports over the next 3 years. This includes money to fund new homeless shelters and beds, to get more police officers patrolling the TTC to keep it safe, and to help bring the Finch West and Eglinton Crosstown projects online. The province is also providing the city with up to $7.6 billion in additional capital relief by uploading the Gardiner Expressway and the Don Valley Parkway. These two highways, they move over 300,000 vehicles every single day. In fact, the DVP is the only expressway connecting the north and south ends of the city. These two highways are vital to the success of the province's economy. This deal will ensure that these critical transportation assets remain in good condition and keep people and goods moving for generations to come. And let me be clear, this government will never, ever toll these highways. Now more than ever, drivers here in Toronto and across the GTA need relief, not more cost. This new deal will also deliver on our commitment to build more housing. And I'm thrilled that Toronto has agreed to meet or exceed its target to build more than 73,000 new homes by 2025, including by building way more density close to transit. Not only will this help bring the dream of home ownership into reach for more people, it will put the city on a path to receive hundreds of millions of dollars in funding through our Building Faster Fund. We're going to work together over the coming weeks and months to find surplus government lands where we can quickly build affordable and attainable homes, including modular homes. And friends, as part of this new deal, the city has accepted the province's authority to advance approvals for Ontario Place. Later today, our government will introduce new legislation for this new deal that will support a growing Toronto, help solve the city's deep financial challenges, and move forward important priorities like building homes, transit, and critical infrastructure. Friends, we're working together to put Toronto on the path to success, not by painful cuts in services or new taxes and tolls, but through smart, effective growth. Growth in services, growth in transit, growth in density and types of housing, growth in infrastructure, and growth in revenues. And while Ontario and Toronto have come to this historic agreement, we still need the feds at the table. We're again calling on the federal government to step up as a full partner and provide their fair share of funding for things like shelter supports and transportation infrastructure. Toronto is too important to Ontario and Canada's economy. We need all levels of government working together to ensure this world-class city, Canada's largest city, remains financially sustainable. When Toronto succeeds, Ontario succeeds. When Ontario succeeds, Canada succeeds. Thank you all for joining us, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Mayor Chow for her comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I live a few blocks from a food bank on College Street. Every day I see people in line, seniors, families, kids, all waiting for the food bank to open. And every month the line seems longer. In Toronto, 1 in 10 people use food banks, and a third of them are kids. Kids that need to fill up their bellies. Kids that can't learn if they're hungry going to school. Families are stuck making the impossible decision in either paying rent or feeding their kids. And we do know 85,000 Toronto households are on a waiting list for a long time for some kind of affordable housing. So many Torontonians are facing difficult times, especially those that are sleeping on the street, even tonight. We got here because we have decades of underinvestments from different levels of government. We inherited a bit of a financial mess in Toronto. And for a long time, it's hard to find hope until today. And I want to thank the Premier for partnering with Toronto. I want to thank the Premier for providing this new deal so that we can provide some hope for some of the families that are having a hard time to get by. I'm encouraged by this new deal. It unlocks the city potential. It provides billions in capital and operating dollars so we can do more for people. By uploading the Gardiner and the DVP, the city will be able to spend billions more on affordable housing, fixing transit, and building communities with all the things we love in the neighborhoods, whether it's community centers, libraries, parks, and all those things where people gathered and where they feel they belong. This deal means that we can do more for people. It means we can realize the potential of our housing plan, our ambitious housing plan. Thousands of affordable units can be built by redirecting funds that could otherwise be spent on repairing and aging highways. It means that we can repair our aging transit system and improve the services so people can get to work and school on time. We can fix our roads instead of spending a huge portion of our budget on fixing the Gardiner. This is a structural change that will unlock billions over the next 10 years. But of course, it doesn't take us all the way there. That's why I'm very thankful the province and the city have agreed to continue this conversation. Over the next few years, we'll continue to examine the city's finances and working on Toronto's long-term financial sustainability. It's the beginning of a journey. It's a wonderful first step. And of course, we need the federal government to step up and join us. We have identified areas where the federal government can join us, like leveraging the provincial's commitment to split the cost of the new subway cars on Bloor Street. We need that now. If we can secure a third of the federal dollars, whether it's on shelters, on housing, and on the subway cars, we can, we can put in the order immediately. When all levels of government work together, there's so much more we can do for the people of Toronto. It's a partnership. It is a collaboration, because we know we are stronger together. I look forward to continue the discussion so that together we can build a city that's more affordable, caring, and safe for everyone. Again, I want to thank the Premier for this wonderful partnership for this new deal. Some of you may have questions.
Thanks, Mayor.
Maybe not.
We'll now go to reporters' questions. If reporters could please identify themselves by name and outlet. It'll be one question and one follow-up. First question.
It's Richard Southern with City News 680. Mayor Chow, you've repeatedly spoken out against the Premier's plan to redevelop Ontario Place. Why then seek control of it today?
Well, my position is clear in Ontario Place. I've said so before. I'll say so again. It has been my position that I believe that Ontario Place be a public park, but it is called Ontario Place. It is, the land belongs to the provincial government, and we do not have the authority to stop the development. And the future of Ontario Place is going to, that debate is going to happen here in Queen's Park, not at the municipal level. And if you want, I have our city manager, Paul Johnson, have a letter specifically regarding what the city can or cannot do. And it's very clear that we do not have the ability. It belongs to the Ontario government. And there are two other elements on this in the term sheet, as you might have seen. Number one is that the possibility that we could move the parking lot to the X place, which is something that we will negotiate, because it would open up more public space to on the waterfront. The second piece of it is the science center. The science center will now, again, with partnership between the provincial and the municipal government, we will have for the local communities and other Torontonians a science-based program, community program for on the Legacy Science Center at that spot, which will absolutely benefit especially the local residents.
Premier Ford, critics are quick to point out the near $500 million you're set to spend on this underground parking garage. Will you listen to that suggestion from Mayor Chow and simply move the spa across the street to the CNE where there's lots of parking? Will you save taxpayers that money that way?
Well, thanks for that, Richard. And let's just put this into perspective. Ontario Place, out of this whole deal, is about that big. And the whole deal is about that big. We're talking about expanding or uploading the Gardiner and the DVP. That's going to, over a long-term process, it's going to save the city billions of dollars of infrastructure. I remember dealing this when I was down there with Rob. This massive piece of infrastructure that gets utilized by not just people in Toronto, all around Ontario, but outside of Toronto, transporting goods and services across the city, and not to mention funding more police officers to make sure the TTC is safe when people use it, building homes and shelters and housing for people. That's what's so important about this deal, and we're going to focus on working with the city and working with the mayor and having a collaborative relationship, and so far we've had an incredible relationship, and I'm very grateful for the approach that the mayor has taken. But this is a massive, massive deal to take the burden off the people and the taxpayers of Toronto.
Hey, Premier, it's Aidan Schmandy from the Trillium here. So a number of other cities across the province are, saying they're broke. So I imagine they're looking at this deal that you've announced today, kind of longingly wondering if they could have something similar. So I'm wondering if you are open to replicating this process with other cities across the province.
Well, ever since we've been elected, we've worked with all 444 municipalities across the province. They've received funding greater than any other provincial government's ever given them. And we look forward to always working collaboratively with all cities. But let's look at the City of Toronto. The City of Toronto is unique, unlike any other city in Canada. They're the only city in Ontario that has a subway system that moves millions and millions of people, and that we're doubling with collaboration with the city and the federal government. It's the largest transit project in North America that are going to be moving people every single day, 365 days a year. So if you look at Toronto alone and the surrounding area of Toronto, they represent 50% of our GDP. They're 460 billion roughly, their GDP. Ours is about a trillion, over a trillion. But on a federal level, Toronto and the surrounding area represents 20% of Canada's GDP. It's massive. There's nothing like it in the country. So that's why we're calling on the federal government to be a partner, to work with us, as they have in the past, and they've been a great partner. And we just look forward for them to join in, support the City of Toronto, support the province in doing that. And as I said in my speech there, that when Toronto does well, Ontario does well. When Ontario does well, Canada does well. We're the engine of Canada, Toronto, Ontario.
And the Premier, you recently said that the RCMP would have full access to cabinet records as part of the probe into the Greenbelt land swap. I'm wondering if full access extends to your personal phone records.
You know something? Whatever the RCMP requires, we're working with them. As simple as that. But I really want to focus on this message today. It's the biggest historic funding ever in the history, not in Ontario, but in Canada. And honestly, that's what people care about. People care about the number one issue on any poll you see. Number one is affordability. Affordable homes, affordable grocery, affordable gas. We reduced the gas tax by 10.7 cents a litre, and we'd love the federal government to knock off the 14 and a half cents of the carbon tax. That's what people care about. They care about having a strong economy, working hand in hand with the City of Toronto. That is the driver of Ontario's economy, and for the most part. And they want good health care. And we're working diligently on all three aspects. Everything else is at the bottom. Those are the three main things, no matter which way you look at it.
Hi, Premier. Jack Cowan from the Trillium. As the mayor just said, it seems like the province always had the authority to do what it wanted on Ontario Place. Isn't this a steep price to pay for getting the city out of the way a little bit earlier?
No, this is more than Ontario Place. Again, I'll repeat, this is more than Ontario Place. Ontario Place is that small, but in saying that, that was a location that was losing millions and millions of dollars every single year. We take a different approach in government. We look at creating more revenues, more opportunities, more tourist attractions, and that's what we're doing. And we're going to continue moving forward and always working collaboratively with the city. And as the mayor said about the parking, maybe that's not the best place where we had it. So let's move it. Let's move it over to Exhibition Stadium, have more open space towards the lake. You know something, folks, I think I've proved over the last 5.5 years, I will work with anyone, absolutely anyone. And I'm pretty open to making changes and making sure, everyone's half happy. And we just, well, that's it. You have a good deal when both sides aren't too happy. If anyone thinks I want the DVP and the Gardiner, no, I don't. But that's our responsibility. There's no bigger infrastructure piece, and Toronto can't even handle the infrastructure. And again, I go back to my days at City Hall. That was like an 800-pound gorilla on your back. Yep. Now they're going to free up that money, and they're going to be able to do what people want. And people want affordable housing, attainable housing. They want safe streets. They want safe subways. That's what they want, and this deal is making it happen.
And you've said before that it's critical that the feds get involved in this deal.
Yes.
But you seem to have worked out quite a deal here between these two parties. So what's the missing piece? What would you like to see from Ottawa to both of you?
Okay, so here's another stat. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a numbers person, but the asylum seekers that are coming. Toronto's 20% of the population in Ontario. At minimum, I don't even believe this number, I think it's higher, but at minimum, 50% of the asylum seekers are here in Toronto. We need funding from the federal government in a big way. I go up into north of Etobicoke and Rexdale, and those hotels, they're packed with asylum seekers that want a better life. That's all they want here, but they have to get their working permit. When I talk to a few, just the other day, I pull over, hey guys, how are you doing? You know, do you have a working permit? No, I don't. We can work. We want to work. So the feds have to step up on that way. They have to step up on housing as well. And, you know, when we're buying the new cars, they've been a good partner, by the way, on building that subway. So it's not all gloom and gloom. They've been a really good partner on many aspects, but there has never been a time that Toronto needs them and Ontario needs them more than right now.
Hi, Premier. Cynthia Mulligan, City News.
Hi, Cynthia.
So I imagine John Tory right now is saying to himself, why didn't you do this for me when I was the mayor? So why now? Well,
funny enough, you know, I talked to John via text, and I think the world of John. I really do. We've become friends, and at his time when we were going through it, we helped him in a lot of different ways. This is a new chapter in Toronto, and he's in communication with myself and communication with the mayor. It's something that you do. There's only been, you know, Rob was 64, so John was 65, you're 66. 66 other people have run the city, and it's a pretty close-knit group, and you share the ideas off each other. And I respect John. I consider him a friend, and any advice that he gives me, I take it to heart, and he's a good man.
Mark McAllister here with the City News follow-up to Cynthia's question. Just curious about the timing of all of this. There is funding for one thing over the course of 3 years, another that is one-time funding. How quickly does all of this come together, and does it help the city's short-term financial difficulties?
Well, I think so. Immediately, we'll take care of all the expenses as we do our due diligence on the DVP and the Gardiner. And let's make it very clear, it doesn't matter what the due diligence come back, we're taking care of the DVP and Gardiner. So that, I believe, is about $350 million right away. That's money going into City Hall's coffers that they're going to be able to do things. As the mayor, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Mayor, as simple as filling potholes. You know, nothing frustrates people more than driving over those potholes, blowing in a tire, then they charge the city. But just things right across the board. So, Mayor, please.
Yeah, on the operating side, it's $1.2 billion, and front-end loaded, which means that in this coming year, 2024, we will receive $310 million plus the 110 extra to help us out. This is the operating. And while we are, because there's some paperwork that needs to be done on the Gardiner upload, the province will provide $7 million on the operating of the Gardiner and DVP, and $198 million, close to $200 million on the capital costs just for the first year. So you can see it just really unlocked the potential for the City of Toronto's budget. Not to also say that the subway trains is $758 million. And we could go to order those subway cars that you keep hearing me talk about on Bloor Street. We need to do it now. That one, we hope the provincial government, the federal government will come on side immediately. And building housing, as of 2024, we will, over the next 3 years, get $342 million. And the first part of it, it will start, the first year allocation will start in June 2024. Which means that we can now plan to build and build a lot more. And do remember that the federal government also have put in some money for housing. So together we can do a lot on building housing. That's The capital over 10 years, if you add in the upload, is anywhere from $3 to $5+ billion over 10 years capital. So this deal is historic, is huge. It means a big, big big deal, new deal, big deal. It means that we can now have the budget room to deal with some of the urgent problems, whether it's something small like potholes, but it can add up, and then it doesn't get very small, and continue our investment in public transit and fix TDC, because the state of good repair needs some of the stations and the signals, and all of that needs upgrade. Also, the building of affordable housing and housing. Together, all of that we can now do.
Hi, Alison Jones with the Canadian Press. I'm hoping one or maybe even both of you could elaborate a little bit on what's being contemplated with the Science Centre. Is the Science Centre still moving to Ontario Place? You're just looking at some sort of secondary Science Centre for the original location?
Yeah, we're going to move that to to Ontario Place. Many governments have went through the process, wanted to do it, guess didn't have the political will to do it. We're doing it, but we're going to respect the location it's on now, because that's the city's property, by the way. People think it's the province. It's not. It's a city, and we had a long-term lease on it, but we're going to respect the legacy, and we're going to be there to support Toronto and whatever they want to do there. There's all sorts of different things, from schools and other things, but that's going to be up to the city to decide, but we'll be there to help them any way we can.
It's a partnership opportunity between the province and the city to maintain public, community-oriented science programming at the existing Ontario Place. Sorry, pardon me, at the existing Ontario Science Centre.
Yeah.
So, Premier, you're not still looking at building housing on that site anymore?
That's up to the city. We'll be there to support them on whatever they want to do.
We're not looking at building housing on the Science Centre site.
Hi there, Alan Hale from Queen's Park today. So a while ago, Premier Ford, you said you were drawing a line in the sand against developers getting building approvals and then not starting construction for months or years. Mm-hmm. But this morning, your housing minister assured building industry stakeholders that your upcoming use it or lose it policy will not be punitive. Can you explain how a policy that you're selling as use it or lose it is not punitive?
Well, again, we want to get housing started. A lot of these builders have come forward and asked for an MZO or anything. They want to move the housing forward, and all of a sudden they stall. That's unacceptable. And we just want to get housing built. We're working with all municipalities around the province to work with them, give them the tools to get housing done. Nothing's more of a priority anywhere in this province than building homes of all types. Nonprofit, affordable, attainable, regular homes, and we'll do everything we can. But keep in mind, without these builders, it doesn't happen. Without municipalities, it doesn't happen. Without the provincial support, it doesn't happen. It's about all working together, and let's get these homes built. Like the influx of immigrants coming in this province is not going to slow down. It's staggering. We're the fastest growing region in North America, bar none. Nowhere, no state, no region, nowhere comes close to the growth we're seeing in Ontario. We welcome them. Thank goodness. We still have a strong economy. We can put these people to work, but they need shelter. They need a home.
But I mean, you have funding tied to these housing starts. Municipalities need these companies to start constructing to get your building faster fund money. If you're not going to take a punitive approach, are people to just assume that they talked you down into watering down this policy?
Yeah, what these builders need in a lot of regions that can open things up is infrastructure. Again, we need the federal government, and they've disappeared on this, and hopefully they're going to come back on infrastructure. It's water and sewer. That is critical, 100% critical. We need the support. We're going to put the money up, but traditionally they've always had the ISIP fund and the infrastructure fund. to help us along. So we need their support. We'll put our money where our mouth is, but we need water treatment, we need the sewer, and we need water in general.
Hi, Premier, Mayor Chow, Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail. Wanted to ask about the Gardiner DVP piece. Are there any provisions in the deal that would, say, preclude the province from deciding to widen or change the alignment of either of those two highways? Would the province have total control over them, or is there any limits on what the province could do? So for instance, say widening the DVP, for example.
Yeah, I don't know how, I've driven on that DVP, better known as the Don Valley parking lot. I've driven on that, and you physically can't widen it. I think there's 11 or 12 bridges. It's just not possible, So I guess the answer is no.
And it'll be solely paid for by the province? There's no cost-sharing arrangement in that?
No,
Okay.
it's solely picked up by the province.
On the Science Center, similarly, is there any cost-sharing? My understanding was that building, which the city owns, the province has said is in disrepair and needs repairs. So is there any help for the city to fix it up, or is that just up to the city?
Well, Michael Lindsay, the CEO of Infrastructure Ontario, will come out and have some comments about that, I think this week sometime. So I'll leave it up to the experts at Infrastructure Ontario.
Actually, the Science Centre, the land is owned by the City of Toronto through the Conservation Authority. The Ontario government has a 99-year lease for the Science Centre to operate there. In terms of the actual building, the Science Centre belongs and is operated by the provincial government, not by the city. In terms of upkeep and programming, it's Ontario government, but because it impacts on a whole lot of people in Toronto, we are going to be partnering to make sure that no one will lose out. That Science Centre will continue its community science-based programming, and I would imagine that some new elements, high-tech elements, whichever element, science element, would then also go to the waterfront. So that we have no say, but it's up to the provincial government.
Okay.
This will be the last reporter.
Okay.
Ben Spur from the Toronto Star. To the Premier, the city's been clear that it feels it needs a sustainable source of revenue that grows with the economy to meet its operating funding needs. On the $1.2 billion that you're pledging over 3 years, are you committed to providing that level of support in perpetuity, or are we going to be back here in 3 years needing new talks for sustainable operating funding?
No, we aren't going to be back in 2 years. I think everyone's worked really, really hard, and we're going to continue working side by side with Toronto. As years go by, new things pop up, and we look at being a great partner to Toronto and all other municipalities, which we have over the last number of years. We're spending over $184 billion on infrastructure, $28 billion on roads and building roads, highways and bridges, over $70 billion on transit across the province. The biggest chunk is obviously the largest subway expansion in North America. We're building new hospitals and building new schools across the province, so there's never been a bigger influx in funding towards infrastructure ever in Ontario than what we're putting forward. But this is all about working collaboratively together. It's been proven over and over and over again. When we work all three levels of government together, it's amazing what we can do. And this is one example of two governments working hand in hand, the largest city in the country working with the largest province in the country. And I just want, once again, I want to say I'm very grateful, Mayor, for our relationship and your cooperation. We had a good chat last night. We have some good laughs together too. Can't always be all serious, and I have a soft spot for the Mayor. I do, and I don't know if it goes back to a relationship that her late husband Jack and Rob had, but we get along very, very well. There's certain things we may not agree on, but we're going to work together on the stuff that we can agree on, and I'm just very grateful for the Mayor's leadership.
And as a follow-up to the mayor, as historic as this deal is, as you describe it, it doesn't sound like the operating funding pledged here today is going to meet the 1.5 billion shortfall that the city has just next year. So what's the plan to address the remaining shortfall?
It is an ongoing journey. It's okay. It's a good first step. And we need the federal government to step up, of course, and we'll continue our conversation on ongoing financial arrangements. I think someone is trying to tell us something.
So folks at home that are hearing this bell, that's a sign that you got to go in. There's a vote happening. But I've actually probably connected it in here to tell the media the press conference is over. So it kind of works both ways. But anyways, thanks everyone. Very grateful. Thank you.